welcome everyone to Elbow Lake Environmental Education Center's 7th virtual public outreach event for the summer of 2020. We are very excited to have you all with us this evening for our medicine walk at Elbow Lake with Deb St. Amant. We will be continuing to host these events in the fall, so please stay tuned on Elbow Lake Environmental Education Center's website and our social media. We also invite you to check out the recordings of our past events, which can be found on the official CUBES YouTube channel. My name is Lindsay Reed, and I'm one of the Outreach and Stewardship interns at the Queen's University Biological Station. Myself, along with Megan White, the other Outreach and Stewardship intern, and Sarah Oldenberger, the Outreach and Teaching Coordinator, facilitate you all here with us tonight. And if you wish, please type your name and where you're zooming in from the chat box, as we would love to know if you're comfortable with sharing. We ask that you please keep your audio and video turned off throughout the webinar. Might do that for, but just as a reminder, please keep your audio and video turned off throughout the webinar. And you can type your questions into the chat box throughout, and I'm able to ask Deb as she moves along to get answers to your questions. And the icon for the chat box is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen, I believe. And please note that we will be recording this webinar, and it will be available after this presentation on the CUBES YouTube channel, in case you wish to leave early or wish to share it with your networks. All right, so I just wanted to acknowledge that Queen's University is situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. Specifically, the Elbow Lake Environmental Education Center is situated on unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory and is a part of the Algonquin land claim by the Algonquins of Ontario, currently under negotiation with the federal government of Canada. Acknowledgement of these facts requires recognition of the pre-colonial history of this land and the peoples who lived here and continue to live here. The cultures and spiritualities of Indigenous peoples are connected to the land, and the land is an integral part of their ways of knowing and living. These knowledge systems are continually evolving in relation to the land and its other inhabitants, both human and other than human. The Kingston Indigenous community continues to reflect the area's Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee roots. There is also a significant Métis community, and there are First Peoples from other nations across Turtle Island present here today. So I would like to take this time to introduce our speaker for this evening. Deb St. Amant is the Elder in Residence at the Queen's Faculty of Education. And Deb, we really appreciate you joining us tonight, and I will pass it along to you now.
Oh, I managed to turn it around so it's facing me. Ani Bojo, Beige Guapshke, my Deb St. Amant, go Makwa and Doram, and Dujaba, Minwa Trenton and Dow, and the Schnabe Kwe Ode. So I said my spirit name, it means one white wolf standing in all four directions. I said I'm also known as Deb St. Amant. I said my clan because as an Indigenous person, we usually start out with our clan. So I said I'm Bear Clan. And then as an Indigenous person, I situated myself on the land because we are the land. So I said I'm originally from Penetanguishene and I live in Trenton. And I think that might have been all I said today. So I'm so excited to be out here at Elbow Lake right now. We're standing down by the water. I'm gonna flip my camera on so you don't have to look at me. We're standing down by the water and we're in an area that has been ravaged by the beavers. The beavers here at Elbow Lake have taken pretty well every little birch, and now it seems like they're attacking all the sugar maples. So I'm going to look at a birch tree right now that has not been touched by beavers. This is a massive, massive birch tree, and you can see it's kind of grown around this big rock. That rock looks like it's about 2 feet by 8 inches to me. Yeah, so I decided to start with wigwas. This is the white birch is one of our greatest helpers. This birch, the bark was used for our shelters and for our canoes, and it's used for lighting fires. It's used for medicines. There are so it's used. Scrolls are written on it. There's so many of our stories that we can say just about the way the bark is made and formed. So this is one of our important medicines. This medicine, it the 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 bark of the birch bark tree can be boiled and used for bathing our skin because it's super good for our skin. It helps with things like eczema and psoriasis, those type of skin conditions. The birch also has a sap that makes like it's a sugar water. It's more diluted than maple though. To make a liter of birch syrup, you need 70 liters of the sap. So it's a long process to boil that down. This particular plant is one of my favorite. We use the birch also like to make our like bowls and dishes and pails. It's just like one of the most useful of our standing medicines that we have as Indigenous people. Oh, I know what I didn't tell you about me. That I'm Ojibwe and I'm also Métis because my dad was a Métis and my mom was Ojibwe. So just going back to that. And you'll notice that I have the attention span of a gnat. So I'll see something and then I'll change focus to something else. So I'm standing here because I mentioned the birch sap. I'm standing here amongst a lot of sugar maples. So I'm going to show you some sugar maple leaves. When you look at the leaf, you see, I'm trying to hold a camera and use my, you see this U shape here that looks like a cup, like you would put, there you go, now it's looking like a U. That kind of tells us that it's a sugar maple because that cup will hold the syrup for us. So the sugar maple, the young leaves are edible. The keys are edible. We use and they're like sugary, and the sugar maple is mainly known for the fact that we get maple syrup from it, which is also like a very strong medicine. I'm walking over here to a bigger one. It's too bad that you're not here. When we're picking medicines, we always put down tobacco first because we never take anything without giving something first. And when we're looking for medicines, we always look for something that's been stressed, like this leaf here, that's going to have a stronger medicine than a leaf that's pure and unblemished, because the leaf has had to fight off insects or fungus, or when it has blemishes, it also has stronger medicine in it. So we don't try to take the best looking for our medicines. We take the ones that look the most stressed. So when we're making maple syrup, we use 4 liters of the sap for 1 liter of maple syrup. But we also use the sap as it is, because when we tap the trees and get the sap, that sap is also, I'm kind of looking at birch trees and talking about maples. I'll look at this maple. That sap is also medicine. We use that as a cleanse because we're normally tapping the trees like early in March to get the kind of the beginning of spring. So we use that sap as a spring cleanse. We also use that sap when we're making strawberry water and other drinks because it's already naturally sweetened. That sugar water that we also make into maple syrup is good, has lots of antioxidants. It helps regulate blood sugar, which sounds odd because it's sugary, but it helps with diabetes. And it also helps with cancer. So when you're pouring your maple syrup onto your pancakes, you're taking medicine. And remember that with all medicines, you're only supposed to take a little bit, like don't overdo it, because any medicine, when you overdo it, also becomes toxic. But if you take the sugar from this tree, just use it in moderation. It can help with cancer as well as diabetes. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm just going to wander. I'm stuck on, I'm up on this little hill that's got all these rocks. There must have been some structure or something. And I feel like I'm standing on some kind of foundation. So I'm just going to walk down out of here to get to another medicine to talk to. So if you, I don't know. No, I want a better plantain. I was going to talk about that plantain, but I want a better plantain because I want one that has some psyllium on it, so I can talk about the psyllium. So I'm just walking and looking. But there's so many medicines as we walk. But like I say, there's like millions of medicines, and my knowledge of the medicines is about the size of a grain on a beach. So we just have to be patient. I'm gonna come over here to this cedar tree because it's one of our 4 sacred medicines. We have our 4 sacred medicines are tobacco, sage, sweetgrass, and cedar. And I have this cedar tree here. I'll pull down a branch so you can see because it's up kind of high. There we go. A cedar branch. The cedar branch has that's the back side of the cedar, and this is the front side of the cedar. And this is one of our main medicines and one that we use a lot as well. I'm going to switch hands because my right hand can't hold stuff that high, that long. I think I'm still focusing on cedar. I'm going to stand here, and if I'm not focusing, just let me know. Because it's over my head and I can't look that high. Can you hear me still though? Okay. So the cedar medicine is a purifier. So we use this to purify the air in our homes and also to purify ourselves and to cleanse ourselves. So we make a cedar tea with this, and it's good for our respiratory system. It's good for coughs and flus and colds and many, many things. It's really high in vitamin C, and it's one of the first drinks that was shared with the settlers so that they wouldn't get sick in the wintertime. The cedar is used in many of our ceremonies, and we put it over our arbors during powwows. We use it when we're talking to the creator. When we put our tobacco into the fire, we always put a little bit of cedar in as well, so it has that little spark to get the creator's attention. We use it for our sweat lodges. We put it on the ground, the covering into and around the sweat lodges. We put it around our shelters if we're fasting for protection, because it's a protection. We hang it above our doors and entryways during the winter time. We use cedar baths to cleanse our skin, and the final kind of ceremony we use cedar for is when someone passes away. It's the job of certain women in the community to give that person's body its final cedar bath. So it's one of our very important medicines. It's one of the 4 main medicines. My arm's too sort of hold up any longer. Yes? We boil the leaves, or I boil them. But you can also just put it in steeple. I like it to get like a reddish brown color, so I like it to boil. And then you can also breathe that in, like to clear your airways. But yes, and cedar tea is a tea. Like if you've never had cedar tea before, you don't want to drink it because it's a diuretic, so it'll kind of clear you out. Cedar tea, I think like a cup a day, and you have to think in terms of cups. Like when I was a kid, when we used to have like our mugs were like the size of a 1 cup. instead of these mega mugs that people have nowadays. So like these things, if you're not used to drinking cedar tea, you just take a little bit, and like every few days. When in the winter time, when I use it like for colds, etc., I don't drink it every day. I drink it maybe a cup every second day or every third day as kind of a maintenance. I'm going to talk about this little plantain down here because I see a cute little plantain. Am I focusing on plantain? Yes, I am. Okay, so here's a little plantain. It's one of my favorite medicines because it's really good. These leaves are good for skin rashes and bug bites. Like when I get a mosquito bite, I'll take one of these leaves and I'll break it up. If it's, this one's kind of dirty because it's really close, but if it's not too close to the ground, I'll chew it and rub it over my bug bite and the bug bite will disappear. It works really well. Like stinging nettles, it'll take the rash, the redness away immediately. This little seed pod of the plantain, these seeds are psyllium. That's the main ingredient of Metamucil. So it's a plant that provides that roughage, I guess, to help people go well. This plant, these are getting kind of pretty seedy right now. When this is just a little bit younger, the seed pod, I guess it's not a pod, it's just a stem with a bunch of seeds attached to it. You can pick these, and if you fry them with a bit of butter and garlic, they taste like a cross between a green bean and an asparagus, and they're good. But because it's like straight psyllium, you only want to eat like a few of these, like maybe like 10 or so. You don't want to eat a whole plate full of that because after all, it's like Metamucil. So you're not going to be, it'll taste really good for a while, but then it's going to let you know that it's working and you won't be so happy with it. Yes, I think I'll walk a bit more. But there's so like everything I'm passing along the way is medicine. I'm passing a lot of dandelions, so I might as well talk about these dandelions for you. Dandelion's my absolute favorite tea, and I use every part of the dandelion. I use the flower, the stem, the leaves, and the roots to make tea, and it's a good antioxidant. It's good for lowering your cholesterol. It's a good anti-inflammatory. It lowers your blood sugar. It's just like an all-around really good plant. The roots are really good for cleansing your liver, so that's important. If you're allergic to latex, you shouldn't really use the stem of the flower because that white stuff in the flower is latex, so you want to avoid that part, but the rest is good. Some people roast the root of the dandelion and use it like as a coffee substitute. I use the whole thing. Like when I make my teas, I do make one batch that's just purely roots and one that's roots, flowers, stems, and leaves because I like the flavor of it. Would I had the attention span of a gnat? I'm looking at some white pine. Here we go. Some pine. So these needles are also really high in vitamin C and are good for a tea. They're good for your respiratory tract. They're good if you have the flu. So like during COVID times or whatever. It's a good tea to have as well. The white pine is the pine that is the tree of peace that the Iroquois nations celebrate and talk about the great peace that brought the nations all, like when the peacemaker brought everyone together, was that a white pine. The pitch of this is used for helping seal our canoes, etc. And so yeah, this white pine is also one of my favorite trees. I just love the white pine. I don't know. I'm sad that you're not here to be able to touch everything that I'm touching and getting to smell. Yeah, because that's like the main joy. And I don't know, like I can hear a loon calling. I don't know if you can hear a loon on here, but there's a beautiful loon calling. And when I was standing there, I saw a bunch of little sumac trees just starting to grow. I'll just zoom in on one little sumac tree. Oh, little staghorn. I'm going to walk over to a bigger one so that, okay. These are staghorn sumacs. I just want to get to where I can reach one of the berries. Aha, I see. So this is a staghorn sumac, and it's really sad that you're not here to be able to feel this, because this part is so furry and soft. And this tree, the berries, there's hardly any berries left on this garden. These berries, we make my Métis grandmother shared with me, auntie shared with me cough medicine recipe that she makes using these particular berries. But we make a lemonade, a drink with those, like a tea, and when it's cool it tastes like lemonade. These branches are quite often of pipes, in the peace pipes, because the pith inside of the sumac comes out very easily, and you can hollow it out to make your pipe for your prayers, not for like just smoking tobacco, but it's a ceremonial pipe. So it's used for that. The white, like the pith part inside of there, inside of the branches, is also good to put on your skin if you've got like cold sores or abscesses. It's really good for that as well. That's what I'm going to say about that. And I'm finding out it's really hot here in the sun. I'm going to go over here where it may be shadier. Hopefully. We're in the parking lot now, so then the sun's like super intensified. Oh, I'm going to stop right here. These are raspberries. Raspberry leaf is one, well, the raspberry itself is a medicine, but the raspberry leaf is a good tea to help us be calm. The raspberry leaf tea was also one that was used for women to decrease their labor pains. Most of our traditional medicines you're not supposed to take like when you're pregnant, but when you're in labor, it's okay to have the tea made with that one, that raspberry. And then the raspberry itself is good heart medicine. Yeah, that's what I'll say about that. And I'm going to go find someplace shady, because we're out here on like a super hot day. Super hot day. And I could answer any questions if there's questions. Otherwise, I'm going to stop here and talk about this little wee mullein. It's not in the shade. So this is a little first year mullein, and it's like super tiny, but these leaves are like quite often will be as big as my hand. But this is just a little baby one. It's a first year one. The first year, they don't get a flower. They just make this rosette. And it's super, super soft. So this is what like we look for if we're out in the woods and we need to, if we don't have any toilet paper, it makes a good toilet paper. This one here. This was also used in diapers to, when it's dried up, to absorb the moisture. But this is really good for your respiratory system. It's good for asthma, in particular the flower. Like I haven't seen any out here with flowers on them, but yeah, because all the ones I found so far are first year. But it gets like a really tall flower, and that yellow flower, it can be lit and the smoke from it, if you breathe it in, asthma attacks. I know that sounds like it's totally wrong. It should not be happening. Why are you inhaling smoke when you're having an asthma attack? But it actually opens up your airways. So the flower of this is really good. The leaves can be made into a tea also to help with respiratory infections as well. So this is one of my favorite plants. These like grow taller when they have the flower. They'll be taller than me sometimes. I'm like 5'6", so they're a nice plants to have around. And I always tell people that the medicines that you need grow in your own backyard. And I was saying that to a group of men recently, or in the spring, and then one of them got a really bad cold. And I remembered what I said and looked outside, and he saw mullein, so he brought it in, and he made himself some tea with that mullein that he had seen in his yard. This is sugar people. We're just saying hello as we go by. It's really hard for me not to stop and talk and touch like every single plant as we go. I'll go look at the juniper berries over here.
Deb, we had another question come in.
Yes?
Someone asked, do you burn fresh flowers or dry?
Dry. But the fresh flower, it's kind of like a huge pod. I'll show you my shadow. It's like a huge pod, and it has all these yellow flowers around the outside, and on the inside there's like a white gooey, I want to say mucus, but mucus sounds gross. It's not mucus, it's a good medicine for you. That's also like super good. So like I like to pick some, like when they're nice and fresh, to get that mullein, I call it goo, mullein goo out, because that's my technical term right there. That is good to put on your skin as well for skin problems. But that whole flower, like when it's dried out, that's you smoke. I don't smoke it. I use it like a smudge. Like I light it on fire, and then I put my face over it and I breathe it in for my asthma. Yeah, I hope that answered the question. And like the thing with medicine, like sometimes, like I just like say whatever comes to my head at the time about the medicine. Like the next time we go on a medicine walk, I might talk about the same plant, and I'll say more things that it does, because I don't have like a script memorized. I just talk about the parts that I remember, and yeah. So the light's playing weird tricks on us right now. Oh, that's you walking and filming me. Okay, I got it. I'm going down to this juniper berries. So here's a little wee juniper, but it's lots of berries, and they're very good medicine. The juniper branches itself are good medicine, but the little berries are good medicine too. So juniper berries can be lots of different colors. These ones look like they're going to be turning blue eventually. And they are good antioxidants, and they're good for adding flavor to things. So they can be dried up and crushed and added to your meals. They can be, what are they good for? It's mainly an antioxidant, and it's good for reducing your blood pressure, and it's also been studied because we believe it helps with diabetes as well, these little berries. So that's a juniper. Can I find it now? Every one of these plants was given original instructions, and they still follow their original instructions, and every one of them can live very well without us, but we cannot live without these plants. So they all have instructions of what they're supposed to be doing, and we have our original instructions too of what we're supposed to be following and remembering to do. But I think people have kind of forgotten their original instructions. I'm just walking over here to something that's been planted here, but that I want you to see is some tobacco. So there's some raised beds here, and there's some tobacco plants there. That's also one of our sacred medicines, and it is the first medicine, and it's the one that we use like when we pray, and that we offer to the Creator. It's the one we dry out the leaves, and we put those leaves out when we're praying, or we can pipe carriers can put them in their pipe and smoke that to bring the prayers up to the Creator. So that's our first medicine. And look down here, there's a little strawberry. So the strawberries are the first berry of the season, and they this plant teaches us to be vulnerable because it's the only fruit that has its seeds on the outside, and the strawberry is shaped like a heart. It's our heart medicine, so that's what we use that for. It's also the women's medicine, and the blueberry is the men's medicine. The strawberry is, well, because it's shaped like a heart, it's also shaped like a womb, so it also helps with helps with our menstrual cycles, etc. But yeah, and the strawberry is a berry that, as Indigenous people, when we eat it in a ceremony, we usually eat the green part first, and then we eat the berry part. The green part has a lot more of the heart medicine than the actual berry itself, but every part of the strawberry is edible, like the leaves and the stem and the berry and the flower. Just most people just only eat the berry, but it's all edible. And my voice sounds strained when I try to stand up. Oh, the hickory. I'm near a hickory tree. And we'll talk about this one too. So we had this is a hickory tree. I don't know if I can reach that. I'm gonna try jumping. No, I'm pretty sure I can't jump that high. Almost. I got it. Okay. And there's a hickory nut on it. So that nut is, well, it's got a coating on it. The nut on the inside is edible, raw, or cooked, and can be used as a flavoring. I was told that the hickory tree came from an Algonquin word, poke hickory, which means good flavor. So it was used a lot in flavorings. This is a shaggy hickory, so you can see, I got it close to the bark. You can see how it like sticks out. It's kind of rough everywhere, but this bark is really good for fires and for fire starting, and it makes very little smoke, but it has a lot of heat, and it makes really good coal. The hickory wood was used a lot for making like bows and arrows and lacrosse stick, like the Iroquois used it for the lacrosse sticks. The inner bark was like rope twisted and used for the like binding the poles in the longhouse, like for tying them together. And this wood was used for like basket handles and handles for like tools like axes and whatever we needed. It's a very useful tree as well. Yeah, so that's a hickory. The older they get, the more shaggy and weird looking they look. So here at Elbow Lake, they just one patch further back where there's like a whole bunch of them, and they're like all hairy and shaggy, standing there, remembering their original instructions and providing us with these beautiful hickory nuts and shade and creating oxygen for us. This hickory tree. And somebody told me what the name is in Mohawk too, but I forget, so I apologize. But I have it written down somewhere, but not on me at this moment. Mm-hmm. Yes? You kind of have to crack them open. It's probably best to eat them when they fall down, rather than trying to get them like. And the nuts are also ground to make like a flour. They can be ground up, like dried up and ground to make a flour too. But you want to get them in the fall. Acorns. These two can be ground up to make a flour as well. And this is also like a really solid wood for us for building structures, etc. So I'm gonna try to get, maybe I can zoom in on a leaf. Sometimes I can zoom, maybe not. I'll see if there's a leaf down below. It's a really tall tree. Oh, wait, maybe these ones over here would help me. I'll stand on these rocks and see, so you can see the shape of it. There we have some oak leaves. But yeah, the acorns are very useful because it was like one of our like main sources of flour from this, and it's got there's so much protein like in these nuts and in the hickory nuts over there, to help us at times we might have less luck hunting. It's important to have that. And Candace is telling me it's high in tannin as well, so that makes it bitter. That was our source of bitter before we had coffee. It was like,
right, we had another question come in.
Yep.
Are there any medicinal properties in poison ivy?
Yes. Poison ivy. Okay, there's poison ivy around here. I saw poison ivy 2 days ago. Poison ivy can help with allergies. Like, it sounds odd, but poison ivy is something that can, the leaves can help you with allergies. And I've heard, but I've never tried this, and I don't, it just sounds like wrong, but I've heard that if you've got a rash from poison ivy, to rub the leaves against it. I don't know. I've never tried that because it just sounds like really wrong, like more wrong than smoking the smoke from the flower of a mullein, to me. Rubbing poison ivy on poison ivy, but the leaves are used for help with allergies, but more as a tea. And there are a lot of plants that like seem nasty when they're alive, but then once they're made into a tea or dried up and powdered, they don't have the same nastiness to them. So I don't really know a lot about the poison ivy, other than it can help with allergies. Yeah. We got lilac trees over here. That's something I'm allergic to, but that makes a nice tea as well. I'm not really sure what the medicinal qualities of lilac are, because I usually just try to avoid it. So, but I'm noticing that there are definitely a lot of lilac trees around here too. Do you know that one? Okay. Okay. Candace is telling me that poison ivy is also an anti-arthritic. Jeez, I should get some to help me. Yeah. And it's used for rheumatoid arthritis. That's one of the things Mullei's good for too. Yeah, Mullein's also good for rheumatoid arthritis. That's one of the reasons why I like it so much. We saw this this milkweed was just planted here today because here at the Elbow Lake there were a bunch of monarch butterflies that ate every single little milkweed that was planted in the raised beds because they planted a pollinator garden here. So these sad looking little plants that you can't hardly even see, that none of them have a leaf on, were looking thriving until a bunch of these little fellas, can you see them there? A bunch of them, like 4 of them, came over and decided that they were feasting on him. But I only see 2 of them right now. Like a while ago there were 4 here, but I only see 2 little monarch caterpillars inching away in here. So they're hungry this time of year. And the milkweed is also a medicinal plant. I'm gonna go back over to this big one. And it was like just growing out in the wild until like a few minutes ago when we put it here. The milkweed, we can make a tea with this, and if we drink like a cup of that every day for a week before we go camping, it's meant to like kill bugs. So it's like a bug deterrent it should last, like if you're camping for a week and you drank it a cup a day every day for a week, it should last you during that time to get rid of the bugs. And the flower of the milkweed can be eaten. I don't recommend you eat a whole lot of them because like the butterflies need these milkweed. But when the flower is like just young and looks like a little broccoli, that can be eaten as well. But when we pick medicines, like when we pick some milkweed or we pick strawberries or blueberries or raspberries, whatever, we don't pick the plant clean. Like we always leave some for a next generation so that they can continue, that the plant can continue to thrive, because our instructions are to leave stuff for the next 7 generations. So when we pick something, we don't usually pick the first plant we see. Oh, did we see that little frog? We don't pick everything. I can't see what I'm focusing on here, but there's a little frog. I'm trying to get him. You see him? I don't have glasses on. I think maybe he's at the base of the grass there. Now, can you see him? There. Well, he moved because I was that close to him. There's a little frog here. So we leave stuff for the other animals to be able to reseed and to move forward as well, like to be able to continue this circle of life. Like we're not supposed to like clean cut or clean pick. That like as Indigenous people, we've always known that, but it's when others came and like told us that we had to harvest every single beaver, whether we were eating it or not. Okay, there's an oak leaf, a little one up close, or like big but a little wee tree up close, because I couldn't get too close to that oak leaf a while ago. Yeah. I'm passing so many medicines. One of the medicines that we have here that I didn't talk about is the water, and that's an important medicine for us. We were down by the water, and this water that we have is like the only water. Okay, there's a puddle. There's some water right there. But the water we have just keeps regenerating itself. And it's the same water that was here at the time of the dinosaurs. And it's up to us to make sure that we make sure that there's water for future generations. We can't like just keep polluting and throwing garbage and waste, etc., into our water systems the way people have been doing, because that's not sustainable for our next generation. For the next generations, we have to make sure that there's fresh water for the next generations too. Just want to show you this little plantain being so determined to grow up through these rocks. It's the resilience of our plant relatives. Like even when they're put in pretty well impossible situations to grow, they'll find a way to grow and to thrive. So that's important to remember too. I didn't try walking back here the other day, so I might lose you if I walk too far. I don't know. This is a super large sugar maple, and when I was talking about sugar maples before, I was talking about harvesting the sugar from them. But what's important to remember, if you have sugar maples that you do tap, that you shouldn't be tapping the same tree every year. Like you should rotate your trees to give your trees a chance to grow as well, because that sap that you're pulling from the tree is also what's feeding that tree, and it needs a chance to regenerate itself every once in a while. So when you're looking at all of the maples, you have to make sure that when you're using a tree that's like big, you're not going to go out and tap one of these little wee tiny trees that have like their I want to call it a stem, their trunk. There we go, their trunk is only like 1 or 2 inches diameter. That's not very fair to that tree. You want to look for trees that have like a larger diameter, because the trees need that sap in order to live as well. And in this area where there are lots of these maple trees, you'll see there's also a lot of the white pine trees, and they work together to help each other. So in the winter time, when these maple trees have no leaves and their sap's just starting to flow, and they need extra energy, like through their root system, they talk to these like pines, and the pines, they don't lose their needles. Try to zoom in on them. Okay, I'm putting down these acorns because they're affecting my ability to. Okay, I can't zoom in on a pine. Okay, this is a pine. Woo! And when I walk over and there's steps, I can't see. Okay, this is a pine. I'm at the bottom of a pine tree. I know these branches have no needles on them, but they'll come back, maybe. But or not, because they have needles up at the top. But the pine tree's roots and the maple tree roots are interconnected. So when the maple needs that energy at the time of year when we're pulling or drawing the sap, these pine trees provide that energy to those maples. And that's why in an area like this, you see the maples and the pines all together and all thriving. And then later on, this summer, when it's getting like too hot for these pine trees and they start to drop all their needles. And these maple trees have all of their leaves and they're thriving. And those maple trees, they send their energy through their roots so to help their pine trees get that hard time. And that also teaches us that we are to look after each other and not be judging each other, that we're like two different types of trees or two different types of people, that we're supposed to work together in order to survive and thrive. So just looking up toward the top where you can see a bunch of maple leaves and pine needles together, because they're even trees aren't meant to just be by themselves. They need a support system too, and they need other types of trees to support them. Like just not like you just can't have maple trees and maple trees. You have to have some types of pine with your maples in order for the maples to be sustainable too, and for the pines to be sustainable. How the pine trees and the maple trees need each other to help each other survive. And it's just like people too, like we need like the maples like have their maple family all helping them, but then they need the outside family, the rest of the tree community to help them too. So the pines help the maples and the maples help the pines. Just like we as people, we're not just supposed to help people of our own race, we're supposed to help each other, and that way everyone survives and thrives so much better. These are some of the teachings that we learn from these standing beings that we call trees. We call them our standing relatives, because they just stand around trying to help, following their original instructions.
We just got a couple thanks coming in, Deb.
Couple thanks.
And someone also mentioned, I think I missed it before, but someone just had a comment. I think it was with the caterpillars in the garden. They said, send them to my garden. I have a forest of milkweed that is taller than me, but no caterpillars.
Milkweed, and they came looking. And I'm worried we're going to get too far away. But for me, like when I'm looking down, like everything is a medicine. I don't know what their medicinal use is for all of the plants, because I'm just learning. I probably know like 20 plants maybe, and there's millions of plants. So that's why you see me walking and not talking about every single plant, because some of them I'm just starting to learn. One of the ones I wanted to talk about, but I don't see, is burdock. I like burdock. But that's the one that has like those burrs on it. And it's a good medicine for arthritis and rheumatism too. And like the root of the burdock plant. And probably as soon as I go off camera, I'll find a whole bunch of burdock. But I've been walking around wanting to talk about it. I don't see it. But it's a good one too. And its leaves can be used, like can be made into a tea and help reduce blood pressure. Yeah. And it's good for gastrointestinal uses, the burdock. And I know there's some here, but I just don't know where it is right now. I found another cedar. I didn't know there was a cedar right here, but I do now. Found another cedar. When we put that down, we try to put it down this side, the top side up, not the flat side. I don't know if you can tell on camera. Like when you're up close, you can see the difference and feel the difference in the top side of the cedar and the bottom side of the cedar. That's the top side, it's kind of shiny. And that's the bottom side, it's more dull. And when we're putting the cedar around for protection, like on the ground. The shiny side up for protection. You lost me again? Okay. It doesn't want me to talk. Are we back? Am I back?
You back?
On a rock. I'm sitting on a rock. These are our grandfathers, and on this rock I've put that piece of cedar. This is the way up. You would put it for protection with the top shiny side, and that's the underside of it. And like when I make a pot of tea with this, like I just take a handful of these to make the tea. But if I'm going to make a cedar bath, I take some of the twig with it too, like not just this green part if I'm making a cedar bath. And the reason I'm sitting on this rock, because they're also medicine. We call them our grandfathers and our grandmothers, and they sit here, and they're home to many things too, like lichens and moss. Like I'm feeling all over this growing, and they've been here since forever, and they only know the truth. So when we're at a loss for words, or we need consolation, it quite often we'll come and we'll like sit on a rock. And you'll see some of our other relatives like to sit on rocks, especially in the summertime. We'll see, I was just going to focus in, there's the rock across from me has a great big, like, lizards and turtles and snakes like to come and sit on these, because they warm up and they retain that heat for so long. And like if we have a talking circle and we pass around a talking stone, usually the first person to hold that stone, the stone is kind of cold, but by the time it goes around and it like absorbs everyone's energy, then that grandfather is also like warm to the person, and it holds our energy and holds our truths. And so when you're at a loss for words, it's a nice place to have a little sit. In my garden, I have rocks. They're nice. I use them as tool, because sometimes if I need to something that's up high, then it becomes everything around is medicine. Everything that we see in nature has something to offer us as humans, and we have like pretty well nothing to offer plants as humans. They seem to get by with us, and they'll be very thankful when not. I'm to wander too far so I don't get lost. I'm going to go back to our little garden here. Maybe my phone's getting mad at me for being on so long. We have some little blueberry bushes that are planted here too. There are blueberries at Ebel Lake as well that just grow here naturally, but these ones were planted here. And like I said, the blueberries are the men's medicine. They're also rich in antioxidants, and the leaves of the blueberry are also a good one for making tea as well. This plant is, I'm told this is wolf medicine, and my name is One White Wolf Standing in. This is supposed to be one of the medicines that's good for me, but I haven't really done any research with my elders about what the medicinal properties of that one are. It's one that I have to learn next. So that's my homework right there. That little plant right there. Can't even tell you what its name is. Okay, sorry everybody. I don't know what happened to my phone, but you can't see me. So then I guess I can talk about anything I want to talk about, and you'll not know any different. Yeah, or maybe you've got questions that you want to ask me while I'm thinking what I want to talk about.
Yeah, the floor is open for questions if anyone has any.
If we can't see what I'm looking at anyway, I don't see one, but beech trees are one of my favorites, and they're the tattoo tree. And it's a tree that you quite often see people like carve their initials in, and carving into that tree doesn't kill it. Like quite often on trees, if you do something to the bark, you end up killing the tree, but the beech tree manages to survive that. But the carving part, I'm not, that's not why it was called the tattoo tree. It's called the tattoo tree because the beech leaves in the spring, when they first, or like the buds first come out, they're long, I want to say like 2.5, 3 inches, and they're pointy, like, and you can dry those out and they're very, very sharp. So they used to be dried out, and then later in the year, if you pick the roots and make a tea with the roots, it'll make kind of an amber colored tea. And then what our people used to do was take those buds that they got in the springtime and dried out, and they would dip them in the amber tea and then pierce the skin with them to make our tattoos. And what happens when that tea hits your blood, it turns black. And so that's how we would get those black tattoos. Like many indigenous people in North America used that beech tree to make their natural tattoos. That's what I'm thinking of right now.
We had a question come in.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has asked, you've talked about using rocks for talking circles. Do you use a specific kind?
I don't use a specific kind. When I was teaching, I had like one that has it's got a piece of quartz in it, and I got it when I was walking towards a longhouse. It was just like there on the road and calling out to me, so that's the one I use. But I use any kind of rock. I usually try to pick one that's like fairly smoothish, like not one that's like sharp or anything, because if I'm having a talking circle with young kids, I don't want anyone to get cut. But I try to pick like a river rock or something smoothish to use as a talking object. And I quite often, like if I'm like teaching like adults or kids, I'll quite often bring in like a bag of rocks, and I'll pass it around the circle, and I'll have everybody put their hand, like, of course you couldn't do this during COVID, but before COVID, I would have everybody reach into the bag and let one of the ancestors, one of those rocks, choose them, and then they would hold on to that while we were doing our activities. And quite often at the end of the day, I would have them write a goal using a Sharpie on that rock and then put it outside somewhere, and somewhere where they were going to see it when they were walking to work or to school every day, and then to keep an eye on that rock. And when the Sharpie disappeared from the rock, then usually they would have met their goals. And I've heard back from people years later saying, hey, remember you said to write a goal on, we wrote goals with Sharpies on our stones and we put them outside, and Sharpie's supposed to be indelible. And all it was sitting outside, and after a couple of years, there was nothing on that rock. I watched it like every day and it just disappeared. So yeah, that's something that I've done before in workshops with both adults and children and those ancestors. This medicine I know I've used before to help with my pinched nerve. It's one of the medicines that I mix with 3 others to help with my pinched nerve. And I make it into like a tea and I drink it. I'm just heading back down to this cedar for a second too because it's a bug repellent. Like it's supposed to be like a natural bug repellent. So like people like use the wood also as a bug repellent. Like people like in the old days used to have like cedar chests and stuff because it would keep like moths out. Here's a spruce. Here's a spruce. In the spring, before the little shoots come out, there's like the little spruce tips. We pick them and chew them in the springtime. They're good antioxidants and such. This spruce tea is also a good one to help with inflammation. Your lungs, whatever that is. Words are escaping me right now. It's been a hard day. My cat passed away. I'm not good at coping with stuff. But anyway, this is also a good medicine to have in the winter. I put a little bit of this in with my cedar tea too in the wintertime, like not a whole lot, but I put a bit of this in with my cedar tea as well in the wintertime to help with you know, like sinus infections and that type of thing. It's also a good one, like to breathe to open up your airways, cleans out your sinus and stuff. Spruce and like spruce gum too was used, like this sap you see on the trees, like where the dark areas are. The spruce gum is like sticky, and we used that also to seal the holes in our canoes. So it's a useful plant too. It's medicinal, and then it's got like the tools to help us build and make things waterproof in this spruce here. I'm sad, and there's something so calming about water. Like it's our first, like in our first home in the womb, we're surrounded by water, and it just seems to have relaxing quality to it. The hearing the waves lap up against the shore. Oh, we got some. I don't know what it is. Oh. Not sure how far I can. We got clover. That's edible. It's okay. And the flowers are edible. Make tea with the flowers too. Candace was just telling us that it makes some sweet water with those purple flowers from the clover. Yeah. milkweed hiding out underneath the bleachers. Can you still hear me? Okay. My video's choppy? Okay. Maybe they can hear the water. That's medicine right there. Calming. This water we share here, like I was saying, like we're back in the area where we kind of started, and there are all of the eaten by the beavers, and like the beavers also a medicine, and like this area is part of the dish with one spoon tree. I'll just try to focus in on one of these little trees here that's been taken down by those little critters. This one looks pretty fresh over here. It's fairly fresh right there. So the beaver, this is the dish with one spoon treaty, and what they don't tell you about the dish, like we all know, like there's a dish and there's one spoon, but what they don't say that's also part of that treaty is that there's a beaver tail in that dish, and the whole, like the part, I'm just going to sit down here and focus on the water while I talk about the beaver. When we had the dish with one spoon treaty between Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, it was to share the resources of the area. And at the time, the beaver was what the people, the Europeans, wanted the beaver for its pelt. And our people were not used to just taking the life of an animal for like one part. We were used to using every part of the animal, like for the beaver, like we would use the pelt, but we would also eat the meat, and we could use like the teeth in our tools and jewelry and such. So we tried to use the whole animal. And when we're talking about the dish with one spoon, the point is like we're all to share those resources. So we say there's one dish and one spoon, which means we're all eating out of that same bowl and we're sharing the one utensil. So we only take like as much as we can use at one time. So we just take like one spoonful at a time. We don't try to gorge on that food, because we have to make sure there's enough for everyone else. And that's why that beaver is important for this area. And yes, they seem like nuisances because they're knocking down all the beautiful young trees, but they have a right to exist too, those little critters. And it's important to remember that. And when we look out and see all of the beautiful resources that we have, to remember that we share everything we have, every other piece of creation. So we're not to be greedy. And as humans, like, it seems that we want more and more and more, and that's not part of our original instructions. Were we were supposed to be sharing these resources with others, and others, like all of our relations, meaning like everything in nature, not just the people, like the plants, the trees, the rocks, the sand, the insects, everyone. So that's part of what we need to remember too when we're out on this land, that this is dish with one spoon treaty, and to remember that we have to look after those other animals too. like we're lucky we still have beaver the way it was like overkilled so many years ago, those many years ago. And the same with our forests. Like we're lucky to be able to sit here and see forest all around us, because more and more corporations are wanting to like clear cut forests and take away all of these beautiful beings that are providing life for us, that they're the ones who create the air that we're breathing. So I'm just ranting. That's how I started talking about beaver and going off in a rant about looking after our environment. But that's an important part of medicine walks too, is like talking about not just the plants, but the animals and the insects that we see. And that loon that keeps calling to us, and a duck flying by. I don't know if you can see the duck flying by, but there's a duck flying by. And maybe the duck's coming from over here, or maybe it's a goose. Or a cormorant. I think it's a cormorant. Oh, a buttercup. So when I was a little kid, we used to put these under our chins, and if it shone yellow on us, then we liked butter, and if it didn't shine yellow, then we didn't like butter. But the buttercup, like this little flower, is mildly toxic, not terribly toxic when it's like in this form. But if you dry it out, then it's not toxic at all. So then dried out, it can be used as a flavoring or a coloring, or put it in your tea. It's not toxic when it's dry, but you don't want to use it when it's fresh. Well, it's just mildly toxic. And if you only put like one in, it's not going to do hardly anything to you. Yeah. Have I got like 3 minutes? Is that good? Okay. Do I want to answer?
Yeah, I can just read the comment.
Sure. All right. Yeah, I was supposed to allow time for questions, wasn't I? I just keep talking. Oh, I'm staring at my feet. Okay. Any questions?
We just had a comment from Maggie. They said, "Thank you for sharing all of this." They noted that they're signing off to go walk by a lake, but they will try to keep in mind the original instructions clear in their mind, and they're sorry about your time.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry about him too, but I'll live. I've cried a lot today. Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? There's some water lilies here, but I don't know what the medicine is for this particular type of water lily. I know the medicine for some other water lilies, but these are the ones with the purple flowers. I don't know what that medicine is. So I'm not going to talk about it since I don't know.
I had another comment. Thank you for sharing your gifts during a hard day.
Thank you. My pleasure. Keeps my mind off of other things. Yeah. Well, it's been a nice way to end, like, well, not end. My day's not over by any stretch of the meaning. Stress of the imagination, because it's tough to drive an hour and a half. But it's been nice to be out here in nature on a day like this. Like, it's good for my soul. I always find being out among the plants and trees and rocks good for healing. Bit in nature therapy. Well, if nobody has any questions.
I don't have anything else in the chat box, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here with us tonight, Deb. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your night to come be here with us. And thank you to everyone who attended as well. And before I forget, I also want to say thank you to Zach, who has been our tech support this evening as well.
Yes, thanks. Oh, Zach, there's goldenrod here. I'll just show you some. Don't start sneezing. Right here. I'll try to not get too close so I don't sneeze.
I'll try my best.
There you go. That's for you, Zach.
Oh, thank you.
It has medicine too, but I don't know what its medicine is. I should probably learn it, since it's one of the things I'm allergic to. I should pay particular attention to it. because it might actually do some good for me other than making me sneeze. It's the sneeze medicine. Okay, it's been my pleasure, everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. And yeah, my mind was like elsewhere, but I was trying my best to like stay focused on plants. And I think I did fairly good. Okay, Bama P.